The 4 mercenaries. 1 vehicle, 1 package, 1 delivery. That's the whole job. No complications, no fine print. No reason to ask questions. Just get in, drop the package, collect the pay, go home. Walter, Cato, Ruby, and Astrid had done 100 jobs exactly like this one. This one was different, and by the time they figured out how different, by the time they understood what was in the package and who hired them and what the location they were delivering to actually was, they were already infected, already stranded, already in the middle of something that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with the worst decision in human history. The drop is where the Toxic Commandos story actually begins. And the story of this location. What happened here, and what the job that brought 4 mercenaries into it was really about is a lot more interesting than it looks on the surface. Let's set the scene. The Commandos are hired by a mysterious contact. Not Leon, not anyone they know, a voice on the radio. Someone who has a job that needs doing and is willing to pay for 4 people who don't ask too many questions. The assignment is straightforward. Pick up an unknown package, deliver it to a specific location inside what the contact describes as an industrial accident site. Get out, get paid. Now right away there are things about this that should raise flags. Unknown package, industrial accident site. A contact who won't identify himself. The instructions that amount to don't ask what it is, don't ask why. Just get it there. But here's the thing about mercenaries. That's basically every job description. You're not hired to understand the context. You're hired to execute the task. And 4 people who have been doing this long enough develop a certain comfort with not knowing the full picture. So they take the job and they drive straight into the worst decision of their lives. The industrial facility that the drop takes place in is the first piece of the infected zone the player actually sees. And it's worth thinking about what this place was before the outbreak because the game doesn't really pause to tell you. This is an industrial complex, the kind of facility that exists on the outskirts of populated areas. Heavy machinery, the processing equipment, the infrastructure of whatever this region's economy was built around before the Obsidian group showed up. And it's already in bad shape when the Commandos arrive. The sludge has been through here, the ground around the facility entrance is already blackened. The building itself shows the signs of whatever happened when the corruption first swept through. Damage that isn't consistent with a normal industrial accident, transformation that goes beyond what any chemical spill or equipment failure would produce. Someone described this to the Commandos as an industrial accident. That description was doing a lot of work. The mission starts falling apart almost immediately. The Commandos are driving toward a drop point when something hits their vehicle, not zombies. Not a hazard, they could have anticipated. A flaming creature slams into them and wrecks the vehicle completely at the facility entrance. Just think about that moment from the crew's perspective. They've been in the vehicle maybe a few minutes. They haven't even reached the delivery point yet, and something that is on fire just totaled their ride and left them stranded at the entrance of a facility that looks like it's been partially digested by something they don't have a name for. This is not the job they signed up for, but they're in it now. The package still needs to get where it's going, so they do what mercenaries do. They assess the situation, they find spare parts, they repair the vehicle, they push forward. What the Commandos move through as they push deeper into the facility is the game's first real environmental storytelling, and it's worth paying attention to even if most players are focused on just surviving the waves. The facility has been abandoned, but not long ago. There are still signs of the people who worked here equipment left mid-task. Vehicles that never made it out, the kind of details that appear when a place gets evacuated in a hurry, rather than properly shut down. These were workers, ordinary people doing ordinary jobs at an industrial site that happened to be inside what would eventually become the quarantine zone. When the sludge spread from the drill site, this is one of the places it reached early, and the people here, some of them made it out, some of them didn't. The ones who didn't are part of the horde the Commandos fight through to reach their destination. That's the thing, the drop does quietly that most players miss completely while they're learning the mechanics. The enemies aren't just obstacles, they're the former workers of this facility. People who were here when the sludge came through. People who had nothing to do with the Obsidian group or the drilling operation or any of the decisions that ended the world. They were just at work. The facility itself has a specific layout that tells you something about what it was used for. Tunnels, underground sections, elevator systems that go down. The kind of infrastructure you build when you need to move things vertically, when whatever you're processing needs access to levels below the surface. This isn't coincidental placement near the drill site. Industrial facilities in this region would have been part of the broader infrastructure supporting the Obsidian Group's operation. Supply chains, processing facilities, the logistical backbone of what was one of the most ambitious drilling projects in human history. When the drill broke through and the sludge erupted, these facilities didn't just get caught in the spread, they were already connected to the operation that caused it. The sludge found them quickly because the infrastructure that linked them to ground zero was already in place. The facility in the drop wasn't just unlucky, it was always going to be one of the first places the corruption claimed the Commandos pushed through. They fight through wave after wave of what used to be the facility's workers. They clear sludge, blocking the elevator. They reboot the facility systems. They do everything the mysterious contact's job requires. And then they reach the end of the mission, and a voice comes on that isn't the mysterious contact anymore. It's Leon Dorsey, the man who caused all of this, the CEO of the Obsidian Group, the person who drilled too deep, ignored every warning, covered up the disaster, and has been running an operation from inside the quarantine zone ever since. He was the mysterious contact the whole time. The package they fought through an infected facility to deliver past workers who used to be people through sludge that was already trying to change them in a vehicle that got totaled by a flaming creature before they even started was fuel. Fuel for a weapon Leon was building, an early attempt at what would eventually become Project God Killer, and it got lost in the chaos. The delivery failed. 4 mercenaries are now standing in a quarantine zone, infected with no way back through the wall, having just been lied to by the man who ended the world. And Leon has a proposition. Here's the lore detail about the drop that I find most interesting when I think about it properly. Leon didn't hire them because they were special. He didn't pick them because they had some specific quality that made them uniquely suited to fight the sludge god. He hired 4 mercenaries for a delivery job because he needed people who would go into the infected zone without asking too many questions, and he needed them to bring him something he required for his plan. They were supposed to be a supply run, that's it, that's what the Toxic Commandos were supposed to be. Not heroes, not a team assembled to save the world, a delivery service that got stranded when the job went sideways. And now because they're infected, because the sludge got to them during the mission, and they can't just walk back out through the wall, Leon figures he might as well put them to work. That gives them devices that harness the sludge energy their infection is producing. Tells them the situation. Explains what he needs. The Toxic Commandos didn't volunteer for this. They didn't choose this mission. They got hired for something mundane and ended up in something world-ending because a delivery went wrong. That's the most John Carpenter origin story imaginable. Ordinary people, wrong place, wrong time. Now you're humanity's last hope whether you like it or not. And the industrial facility itself, the drop's location carries something forward into the rest of the game that's easy to miss. This is where the Commandos first get exposed. This is where the infection that powers their abilities comes from. This is the ground zero of their personal story, even if it isn't the ground zero of the wider apocalypse. Every mission after this one, every ability they use, every moment where the sludge energy in their bodies becomes a weapon rather than a death sentence, it all traces back to this facility, to a delivery job that went wrong, to a flaming creature slamming into their vehicle at the worst possible moment. The drop is called the drop because that's what the job was supposed to be, a drop off, a delivery. Get in, leave the package, get out. Instead, it dropped 4 mercenaries into the middle of the worst situation on the planet, and none of them got paid. That's the drop, the mission that started everything for the Commandos, not the sludge god's origin. Not the Obsidian Group's catastrophic drilling decision. The specific moment when 4 people who had nothing to do with any of it got dragged into all of it, because they took a job from a man who didn't tell them what the job actually was. Next map, we're covering Church of the Damned, the location connected to the cultists, the survivors holding on inside the quarantine zone, and a character whose name keeps appearing in places it really shouldn't. Subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment. Did you catch what was actually going on during the drop your first time through? Or were you too busy trying to figure out the vehicle mechanics to notice the story underneath it? Because honestly, most people miss it entirely the first time.